Good morning, everybody. It's Peter here from AJS, also representing our sister business in New Zealand, G&A Warburtons. Welcome to another online demonstration where we're taking you into a jeweller's workshop somewhere in Australasia, and this week we're going to the South Island and the sunny Kirra-lea Caynes. Welcome, Kirra-lea.
Hello.
Great to have you back on board.
Thank you. Great to be back.
Yes, so you better explain your ear protection there. You're not going to be doing loud things today. It's just...
No, I have a new phone and it doesn't have an auxiliary jack in it, so I can't use my discreet little earbuds, and these are the only Bluetooth headphones I had access to this morning, like 10 minutes before I got on.
They look great though. An excellent fashion accessory there.
Thank you. And great ear protection. They're one of those noise cancelling ones, so I can't actually hear anything around me at all.
Oh, okay. We can, but you can't. Yeah, that's great.
You can. Oh
no. Okay, Kirra-lea, today we're going to do some stone setting and troubleshooting cast in place stones. Would you like to elaborate on that for us?
Yeah, so perhaps you're casting in place rough sapphires or rough stones, and the metal has gone over parts of the stones and covered them, but you want to be able to expose those stones a little bit more. So I'm just going to show you how to remove some of the material so that your stones become, the feature of your ring again. Or maybe you've done some grain setting and the grains haven't formed properly around your stones. So I'm going to show you how to bead them to make them a little bit more pronounced. Or maybe you did a flush set with a faceted sapphire and it popped out and you've got this little crater. I'll show you how to hammer set a new sapphire back in there, or hammer set the original sapphire back in. And if we've got time, I've got other more advanced troubleshooting things to go through.
Right. Excellent, Kirra-lea. So, I mean, it's the nature of the business, isn't it? Things aren't always going to go exactly to plan, and then you just need to be able to manufacture a solution. So
that's it.
Yeah, opportunities, not problems. Opportunities.
That's right. It's an opportunity to create a feature. Or also it's an opportunity to learn most of the time.
Indeed. Okay, so where are we going to start today then?
I'm going to start on something that I have a lot of people asking me how to show them to do, which is how to remove all this extra metal that's spilled over the top of their stones. So I'm going to start with that one. And that usually happens with the rough sapphires because they have all sorts of nooks and crannies and craters, and the metal it's liquid, it'll just find the lowest part of anything and fill it. So
Kirra-lea, just before you just go any further, could I invite our many viewers to just introduce themselves, tell us your name and where you're from? That'd be great. Thanks so much for joining.
Yes, please do.
Back to you, Kirra-lea. Thank you.
That's all right. Easy. So I think I'll just bring this up here. Ooh, my gosh. So you can see how much metal is over those stones. And we're going to remove some of that, so we're exposing those stones some more. So it doesn't look so much like a hot mess. All righty. So what was that, sorry?
Oh, sorry, Kirra-lea. That was a great view there you gave us. Excellent.
Thank you. Every day's a learning.
Yeah.
Alrighty, so I'm going to use a ball burr to cut through some of these bits of metal, and then I'm going to lever off the metal that's over the stone. So I'm going to cut through where it's being attached. I would suggest using an old ball burr or one that you want to sacrifice, because if the ball burr comes into contact with the sapphire, it will blunt it. So I might just adjust this camera so we can, sorry guys, come on a journey with me. There we go. All right, so I've got this worn out little ball burr, so I'm not too fussed if it blunts. It's already pretty blunt from doing this exact thing actually. So I can, you know what, I'll just do this. I'll get a little pen because I can see that the stone is meant to be exposed there, there, there. So sometimes marking out what you need to do can be quite useful. So I've just marked out the different spots that I need to cut through. All right. So let's just cut through that. So you don't usually have to cut all the way down to the stone. You can just cut it so it's like wafer thin, just like membrane thin. And then you should be able to just get in there with a little pair of pliers maybe and grab that bit of metal, and it should just, I don't know if you guys can see that, it should just peel back. Oh, that's a terrible view. I'm so sorry. New phone problems, right? You got to learn how to use them. Ugh. All right, let's get this up. Here we go, guys. Let me show you. All right, so I don't know if you can see that little piece over here.
We can.
I've cut through it and I've just lifted. Oh, I'm so bad at this. I'm so sorry. And I've just peeled it back. So if I turn that on the side, you'll see it's now sticking up where that piece was laying down over the stone before. So because I've cut through that little piece of metal and made it super duper thin, it doesn't take much for me to just peel that back off the stone now and give it a twist and it just breaks off. And now I've got my stone more exposed. And if I wanted to, I could come back in there with that little ball bearer and just round off that little section and make it look a little bit more organic, a little bit more cast in place. So I'm just going to do that to a few other spots. One of the things you have to be quite mindful of is if you remove too much of that metal holding the stone, you know, that's over the stone, that metal might be actually holding the stone in place. And if you remove too much of that metal, then the stone might pop out. So you have to think about leaving a bit of metal over the stone. You can't have 100% of your stone exposed because then there's no way that that stone's being held in place. Something to be a little bit mindful of. Leave little bits of metal, like little tabs of metal, I guess, little curls of metal coming over your stones so that they stay securely cast in place. And because my little ball burr is old and worn out from scraping across sapphires, they're not cutting as quickly as they normally would. But I'd rather sacrifice a little old worn out burr than destroy one of my good new ones. Because you can't help it, but that ball burr does slip off the metal and it does scrape across that sapphire, and that sapphire will just blunt your burr. So no point using your good bits. All right, so I just cut through on two parts in that one because it was a bit of metal that created like a bridge over my sapphire. Now I should just grab that center of it and twist it off. All right. And, you know, you don't have to go in there with your ball burr and tidy it up. You can come in there with your file and tidy it up if you want to. Just bear in mind that, again, you know, sapphires are pretty damn strong, but sometimes having your file go directly over the stone can damage the stone. Not only that, the stone can damage your file. So try not to hit the stones with your file if you can. Let's get that little ball burr in there and tidy up that little extra bit and expose a little bit more of that stone. All right, cool. So there's a few more spots I could go through, but it's quite repetitious. I think you might get the point. And all I'm doing is just, yeah, exposing more of that stone. So I don't know if you guys remember what this looked like before, but that center stone had, oh, there we go. Oh my God. That center stone had like a bridge going straight over the top of it. And now I've cut through that bridge, but there's a little bit of tidying up I need to do. I need to bring each of those little bridge bits back a bit to expose the stone a little bit more. But like I said, there's a fine line between removing too much metal and having too much on there. So I will just fuss around with that until I find that perfect balance of seeing as lots of the stone, making it look all natural, like it was cast in place like that, but also leaving enough metal that that stone is securely set in place. All righty. I'll pop that to the side because that one's done pretty well. That's done for the demonstration. I'll finish it later.
Yes, indeed. Thanks for that, Kirra-lea.
That's all right. Well, I don't know if there's any questions at this stage. If not, I might just power on to the next one.
Yeah, but we will invite people if they do have questions. Please pop them in the chat. That'd be great.
Yeah. All right. The next one I'll show you, which is another common one, which is where somebody, well, when somebody, me and everyone, you cast in place faceted stones, and they just pop out. So it's left this little crater behind.
Okay,
and I have the stone that fell out of it right there. So I'm going to set it back in. Now I've gone through this a few times before, but it doesn't hurt to go over it again and again, just because the people watching today might not have seen the last video.
Indeed.
So what I have to do is I have to set this stone deeper. The reason why it fell out is because in the clay, when I was placing that stone table down in the clay, I pressed it into the clay too much. So that means the stone was actually pushed out of the silver version, and the only part the silver had to hold on to was the little pointy part of the stone. It didn't have the girdle to hold on to because that girdle had been pushed below the clay, and that's why the stone's fallen out. So I need to make this crater, this impression where the stone was, deeper so that I can get that stone down deeper. So the girdle is going to be below the surface of this metal. So I'm going to start off by drilling a hole. I'm not going to go too deep with the hole. It doesn't have to be huge depth. We're talking like 0.1 millimeter kind of depth here. So I've just drilled that hole in a little bit. The hole is to make sure that the culet, the pointy tip of the stone, has somewhere to nestle in. Let me just measure this stone because I can't remember what size it was. All right, we have 1.2. Alrighty. So I've got my my little ball bows here. They come in a range of different sizes. I like having this kit because it has one of every size, and I go, all right, that stone's 1.2 and this at 1.5, so that's too big. Let's go to the size down. So this is 0.3 to 1.4. This is what I want. So I know my stone is 1.2, and these ball bows go up to 0.4, so that's 4, 3, 2. So this is the burr that I'm going to aim to. That is not correct. Let me measure that again. Sorry, maybe it said 2.2. It sure did.
Measure twice, they say. Yes.
Measure twice, cut once. Oh, that's funny. Sorry, guys. All right. So these ones are 2.6, so 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. All right. So that's the one we're aiming to end at, and I like to let that sit out there so I don't accidentally go past it. And I'm going to go for just the 2 mil, and that's just to sort of open up the bum of this a little bit to make room for the is that called the pavilion, the pointy part? Culet is the super point, and then the V shape, I think it's called the pavilion. Hope so. So I'm making room for the pavilion of the stone. So I'm just going to burr that out a little bit. I'm not going to go all the way down to where I drilled it out. I still want to leave that drill hole there so that there's room for the culet, the pointiest part of the stone, to sit. Alrighty, and now I'm going to come in with the actual size, and all I'm going to do is push this in, drill this in, sorry, until the widest part of this ball burr is just below the surface. That's all. If I push it in deeper and the widest part of that stone, the ball burr goes quite deep, that's how deep your stone is going to sit. So keep that in mind. But if I don't push it in deep enough, then your stone's still going to be sitting quite high. All right, let's just pop the stone in there and see the depth of it and make sure that you're happy with it. All right, cool. I'm quite happy with that. It's not too deep. It's not sitting too high. All right, let's get that out. Now we've got to go in there with a little Hart Bur because we've got to cut in a little seat for that girdle. And we know that that is 2.2. And again, I've got my little Hart Burs in this little kit that comes in all the sizes. They're my absolute favorite, my go-to for setting. All right, so it starts at 1.9, 2, and there. This is the one we want. So you're going to pop that in and try and keep it as straight as possible, because if you do your little Hart Bur groove on an angle, your stone's going to be set on an angle too. So try and keep it nice and straight. Sometimes I'll burr it one way and I'll flip it around the other side and I'll burr it again, just in case it was on a bit of an angle. Hopefully it trues it up a little bit by coming in on a few different angles. Cool. So that little groove I put in there should allow the girdle of that stone to just click down into it. So let me get my little stone, pop it there. And we need to give a little press on that stone. So I'm going to get my pusher. There it is. So that's my little homemade pusher. This used to be a burr. And I've just created this little flat head on it, square head. So now I'm just going to press on the girdle, on the table of that stone and push that girdle into the little Hart Bur recess. I've just created that little. I didn't hear an audible click, which sucks because I quite like when you hear the click. Makes me quite happy. I also do have headphones on that stop me from hearing my environment. So who knows? Maybe it did click.
Well, we heard something.
Did you? You heard it click? If you don't have a pusher and you're working on a piece that has a flat back and a flat top, you can come in with your flat parallels and just gently give that stone on a little bit of a push, making sure it's on the table of the stone, and give it a little gentle push. And that does the same thing as a little push it will. You just don't want to crush it too much. You might break the stone, but it's a good option if you don't have the pusher. Or sometimes if the stone's on a bit of an angle, sometimes you can true it up with this, because it is a flat parallel. It will try and force that stone down flat. All right, so that stone's stuck in there. It's not going anywhere now, but let's compress the metal around the girdle of that stone. So the girdle's stuck in a little groove that we created, but let's tighten up that groove. So at the moment, maybe the groove that the girdle's sitting in sort of like this. And what we need to do is compress it around the girdle of that stone, so it's really tightly holding the stone in place. It's not going to wiggle out at all. So I've got my little burnisher, which is something I made out of an old burr again. So I've just tapered it, emeryed it, polished it. And I don't want it super sharp, but I don't want it super round either. It's sort of like a rounded sharp. All right, and I'm just going to run that. Oh, that stone popped out. So that means it is not actually sitting in the girdle. The girdle is not actually sitting in that groove. Cool. All right.
So I didn't hear a click. Is that what you're saying?
You didn't. Yeah, you didn't hear a click. Yeah. So I'm just going to burr that stone so that it sits a little bit deeper. And I'm going to come in and do that girdle little groove again. Sometimes there's a bunch of different reasons for why the stone is not sneaking into position. It could be that this is not actually the original stone. This is another stone that's the same size as that hole. So it could be that the stone I'm trying to put in has a deeper bum on it. So it might be that I just have to make for where that pavilion and the Kirra-lea sit, I might just have to drill it out deeper to make room for it.
So Kirra-lea, when you get a chance, could you do a close-up of the burr? So Ruth has asked to see the shape of it. So yeah.
The Hart Bur? Yeah,
yeah.
Sure.
Mm.
All right, so I'm just drilling out the inside of this so that we have potentially more room for the pavilion and the culet of the stone. You know what, I might go up one, let's see. Yeah.
Can you pop that under your...
Yeah, I might do that. I'll put that under the loop. Here we go.
Just for you, Ruth.
So it emulates the shape of a calibrated round brilliant stone.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.
That's okay. All right, let's pop this in. Let's cut out that seat again. All right, let's pop that stone back in and give it a bit of a push. Hopefully this time it's going to stay in place. All right. In with my hear a click, but it could just be these headphones. Don't let me hear. All right, so finisher, that stone should not really be jumping out like it did just then. So I'm just gonna, oh, you can't really see, can you? Let's see if I can do it on a bit of an angle like this. Yeah, so I'll just, what I'm doing is I'm just getting this burnisher and I'm going around the circumference of that stone on the metal part, and I'm just going to compress the metal. We all good?
Yeah, I think I had some internet issues there, but I'm back on the air now.
Oh,
fantastic.
Yeah. Easy. So I find I apply more pressure when I'm on the down part of the stone. So I will flip it around so that I'm not unevenly putting pressure on this. Cool. All right. And not only am I compressing all that metal around the stone, but I'm creating kind of like a bright cut. So let me bring this back up here for you. So see, there's like that bright little frame around the stone now.
Oh, yeah.
That's from my burnisher. And because my burnisher is polished steel, it makes the metal, it rubs against polished as well, burnishes it. So now I've got this cute little stone set in place and it's got a cute little bright frame around it. It looks like a bright cut. Cool. All right, that stone shouldn't be going anywhere now. Pop that to the side. Oh, we're making good time, aren't we? Any questions before I move on to the next one?
We'll wait to see if anyone responds, but yeah, let's move on and I'll interrupt if there's a question pops up for you.
Easy. All right, so the next one I'm going to show you guys is how to make my grains on a grain set piece look a bit better. So here we go with this loop. I'm loving this thing. All right. So
hang on, I'll get up to as well.
So you see my little flowers? See the ones on the right-hand side? They've got really nicely formed grains around it. But then you look at the left one and they're a bit flimsy. They're a bit soft. So I'm going to crisp up the ones on the left-hand side so they look a little bit more pronounced. All right. So I'm going to pop this in my little ring clamp. Whoop. Do that again. All right. Now I'm just going to get my beaders out. So I'd like quite a large beader for this because the beads on the good one are quite big. So I want to make sure the ones on the other earring are going to be quite big and look similar. So this is not ideal for the way to keep your little beaders. They actually come in like a little case that's round, and they're all sitting upright, and you can see all their sizes. Their sizes are written on them. But mine broke, and so I just keep them in here now. So it is a kind of pain in the ass. I've got to get a better system. So I just I pick them all up so I can see the little cups on them, and I pick the largest one rather than being able to see all the sizes. So I'm going for 22, which I guess is the biggest size. I'll pop them back in there. All right, so let's pop my 22 in my little handle. And all right, what I'm going to do is the metal that is there, the flimsy little beads, the little grains, I'm going to try and perk them up a bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in from quite a horizontal, and then I'm going to work it like on the side to try and pucker up that metal a little bit. At the moment, it's a little bit flat and lame, and I'm trying to come in with my burnisher on this side to sort of push it more up like that and up over the stone to give it a little bit more height, raise it up a little bit, and then I'm going to dome it over and make it look really cute. So I'm coming in on the side, and I'm going to do this sort of like wiggling action as I push forward. So I'm just going wiggle, wiggle, wiggle and pushing forwards, and that's me sort of walking the metal up and over the stone a bit more. And then I'm going to come up and over it and give it a bit of a wiggle on top. All right. Might have to do it a few times. You know, the metal's stubborn.
Is there a particular colour associated with this wiggle?
A colour?
Yeah, associated with the wiggle.
Well, it'd have to be blue. Oh,
okay.
But they already have a blue wiggle. Oh, I don't know. Blue's my favourite colour, though. Yeah, I'll think on that. Yeah, it's a good wiggle. Okay. All right. One of these grains is particularly flimsy and flat and boring. So I'm actually going to have to come in with my square graver and just kick up a bit more metal. So I'm just going to, I can't draw metal from too far away because it will change the design. It will look a little bit weird. Like there's just one little bright cut line. So I'm going to have to come in quite close. But what I'm doing is like the metal's quite soft and lame. So I'm coming in with my graver a little bit further away, and I'm just going to scoop underneath it and sort of pick it up, and hopefully I can then push it over the other direction. I'm asking it to do a lot, really.
So Kirra-lea, but before you do it, did you want to give us a before with the loop to show us?
Oh, sure.
And then we'll put you under pressure. Yeah.
All right. So you can see what I've already done with the there we go. So we're looking at the left-hand side. That's the one that I'm fussing with. Not sure if you can see, but the very left-hand grain I've already beaded up. Wow. So it's the right-hand grain on that left flower that I'm going to raise up some metal.
Okay.
Oh, sorry guys. I'm working in teeny tinies. I'm trying to like describe things with fingers. I know it's hard. Yeah. Sorry. So now I've pushed my graver down, and now I'm just giving it a little bit of a wiggle, and I'm walking it up and over, and I'm pushing it up so that the metal had a little grain of metal, and I've just pushed it up, and now I'm going to bead it down. Sorry guys,
don't hurt your fingers, will you?
Yeah, no. All right, so I've pushed up that bit of metal. So I've drawn from underneath it and beside it to try and create more metal for me to work with. So again, I'm coming in with my beader on quite a strong horizontal, and I'm going to just give it a wiggle, wiggle, wiggle as I'm pushing forward, because I'm trying to push that metal up and over and around on that stone. And now I'm walking it up and over, and now I'm on top of it. And now I'm giving it a bit of a wiggle to try and consolidate all that little bit of metal into hopefully a good looking bead. A little bit more. It's still going to be a smaller bead than the beautiful ones on the right hand side, but you know what, it's starting to look okay. Cool. All right, now let me just bead up these other ones. They're not as sloppy, so all I have to do is just sort of make them look a bit more beady, a bit more pronounced.
And then will you be going to bring the loop back into action?
I will bring the loop back into action. If I wanted to really make these two earrings look more like twins and less like sisters, I could come in with a cut burr, and on the right hand earring, I could sort of take off a little bit of material to make those grains look a little bit smaller so that they look more like twins and less like sisters.
Great analogy.
But you know what? Yeah. I didn't come up with it. I heard it, but I thought it was a good idea. Yeah. The other thing to remember is with earrings, you've got a whole head in between them, so Indeed. you can't really do spot the difference so well. All right, so I'm just making sure that those beads are beady from every angle, because sometimes you'll turn your piece on a different angle and realize that you haven't burnished it all. It's not all beady. And so you'll focus your efforts on that section that needs a little bit more beading up. Cool. All right. Let's bring this in.
Show and tell.
Loop time. All right. So I was working on the ones on the left-hand side. So I don't know if you can tell, but they look more beady than they did before. They look quite floppy before.
Great job.
Oh, there we go. I think you can kind of see them now. Yeah, I'm quite happy with that. They look quite cute. Maybe I'll keep them. Cool, cool. Any questions?
No, in a word.
No,
but,
quiet today. That's all
any
right.
comments even? Be great to hear from you guys. Yeah. Let's plod on.
That's okay. It's all right. Let's move on to the next one. So I'm going to bring the loop back in.
Yep.
All right, loopy action. So this is another grain set piece, but I don't know if you can see, one stone's missing, and then over here on the very left-hand side, there's a stone that shifted and it's sort of not in the spot it needs to be, and it ruined a grain. There's no grain in between it and its fellow stone beside it because it's gotten in the way and stopped the flow of the metal. So I'm going to be removing that stone on the very left-hand side, and I'm going to be repositioning it into its correct position, and then I will be beading up some metal to go in between those two stones, and I'll be setting another stone in the spot where there is a missing stone on that right-hand side. All right. So to get this little sapphire out, like there's two ways of doing it. You could just break it out of there, but then you're going to be down a sapphire, or you could find a way of cleverly removing it without hurting it, and that's my aim. Did I call myself clever? Maybe. So I can see that the only thing holding that little stone in place is the one grain that it's held underneath. So I'm going to come in with my flat graver, and I'm going to lift that grain up so that my little sapphire can sneak on out. because it should be the only thing that's holding it in place. Come on, buddy. Maybe I'll come in with my pliers and just peel it back a bit. I'm just trying to move that grain back over this, off of the stone, so that the stone can pop out. And I'm getting underneath the exposed girdle of that stone with my flat gravers and sort of giving it a bit of a lever to try and help it come out. And I think I need to remove that grain a little bit more. I'm just pushing that grain back off of the stone a little bit more. I'm trying not to push the grain too far away because I will have to bring it back into position. And, you know, the metal, it's quite happy to move a bit, but you don't want to ask it to do much. That grain might just snap off when I go to push it back if I remove it too far. All right, come on, little stone. I will have to push that grain back further than I want to, but
Hi, Kirra-lea.
hello.
Sorry.
Welcome back.
Thank you. Had a couple of internet issues, so hope you've been going well with that sapphire since I saw you last.
I got it out. It was magic.
Oh, really?
Right. I know. I was like, why now? Why right now? People aren't going to believe me that I did it. They're going to be like, oh, she broke that stone. She just pulled out a new one. No, I got it out. So
no sapphires were hurt during the production of this video, is that correct?
No, that's right. I did not have to break it.
Excellent.
So now I have a cavity where that stone was. But I know that cavity is in the wrong spot, you know, because it was sitting way too close to its little fellow stone there. So I'm going to have to create a new cavity for it in the correct position. So let's just measure that stone and actually pay attention. All right, 2.1. 2.1. So I've got my little round ball burrs here. 2.6 is the largest, so we go 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So that's the size we want to finish at. Let's just go in with something a little bit smaller first. We'll go in with 0.2 mil smaller, so that'll be 1.9, I think. All right, come in with the drill. So we always start by doing the where the coulées of the stone is going to be, and I'm just bringing that over to the side a little bit because I know the stone is going to be repositioned off to the side a bit more. So that's where I'm drilling down my, you know, I think you can call it a pilot hole, but I always like to leave the little piece of the pilot hole exposed so that the coulée of the stone can just sneak on in there. All right, now get in there with my 1.9. And I'm dragging it over because I want it close to this end grain. I want it further away from its little friend stone that it was like totally cramping the style of. Cool. That's looking nicer. All right, let's come in with the actual size. And we're not pressing that in too deep because the deeper we put that in, the deeper the stone will be set. We don't want it too deep. All right, let's come over here to our, let's do the Hart Bur because we do want the stone to sneak up underneath that grain. And what was it? It was 2.1 to the 1.9. Here we go. This is the size. Let's pop that in and run it around underneath that grain because we want the stone to sneak up underneath that grain. All right, let's get our little stone buddy and drop him into his new home. Let's use the wax because I keep putting him in on a bit of an angle. Come on, come in. All right, good position. Let's push this grain back over, the one that we did all that fussing to move. Let's push it back over. I'm just going to use these pliers to gently bring it over. You know what, I'm going to use the half rounds. There we go, because the inside of this like crescent moon is rounded. So instead of using some two flats, I'm using a rounded, and it's going to sit on the inside of that round crescent moon. And the flat side is going to push the grain back into position. A little bit more, come on, buddy. All right, and it didn't break, fantastic. So the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to apply a little bit of downward pressure on these guys to bead them up a little, to compress them over that stone a little bit. So I'm going to come in with my parallels, and I'm going to focus my parallels just over the two grains. They're going to be holding in my stone in its new position and give it a little bit of a squish. That should compress the metal a little bit around that stone, and it should help hold it in place. All right, still being a little bit loose, but you know why? Because we need to add an extra grain. Cool. Okay, so I'll come in with my little lens so you guys can see what I've done so far. All right, so that stone on the very left-hand side is now in its new position. It's not snuck up over its little buddy there, but in between those two stones, there needs to be a grain to hold them in place. So I've got two ways of doing that. I could ball burr a little section in between those stones and then ball up some silver, run some solder over the outside of it, and then drop it in that little ball burr cavity and solder a new little grain in place. It's not a bad option. I do like that option, and I do it quite often. But it does put extra risk on your stones. So each time the stones are heated up, you heighten the chance of something going wrong, the stone breaking or burning. So another option is to draw metal from somewhere to create a grain like you would in a traditional grain setting. And in this case, I might be able to draw metal from up the inside of this crescent because I haven't cleaned up this crescent moon at all. I might be able to quite easily draw metal from the inside of it, create like this big giant gouge to get enough metal as I want and get that nice big gouge. There'll be like a little bit of metal that I'll be raising up and bringing over that corner, and then I can bead it up over here. And when it comes to cleaning up, I can clean up the inside of this crescent moon and hopefully blend away the big gouge I created. So I'm going to go with that option because, you know, if it doesn't work, then I'll just solder on a grain.
A bit like a skin graft, really, Kirra-lea.
Kinda, yeah, removing metal from one section and putting in a new one.
And now we do have a comment from Robert. He'd like to see you as the new yellow wiggle.
The new yellow wiggle. Oh gosh, she's awesome. I don't know if I can fill her shoes. You know what I did? I just dropped that stone like a goober. I know. Oh, what? Well, instead of you know, like sometimes the stone will be right there and you found it and it's okay, nothing bad happened. But sometimes the stone likes to hide from you because it really doesn't want to participate. And then I don't want to spend all my time chasing that stone. So, sorry, dude, you are going to be replaced with another stone. Which I had another one up here, and where did I put it? Not there anymore. All right. I had a contingency plan. Okay, I had another stone up here just in case that happened, but I've somehow knocked that off my bench as well. Yeah, it's all right. More where that came from.
Beautiful.
Let's pop a new stone in. Hey, buddy. This is your new home. You like your neighbour?
You've got a lovely relationship with all your jewellery there, Kirra-lea.
Yeah. It's lonely working by yourself. You got to make friends somehow. All right. So I've just got a new little stone in there. Okay, let's create a grain. So I'm going to come in from underneath. You know what? I've got to sharpen that. That's blunt. Where's my lap? My little easy lap. Just got to sharpen that up. Sorry, guys. Now with jewellery making, you can pretty much MacGyver all sorts of tools to make them work, right? You can do like all sorts of crazy things to make jewellery. But with setting, you're only as good as your tools. If you have blunt, crappy gravers, you're going to have shit looking settings. And you just, you know, you can't MacGyver stuff up. You just got to do it right, you know? You got to have sharp gravers. You got to have sharp gravers with polished backs on them. Otherwise, it just doesn't work. All right. Yeah, it's a lot sharper. So I'm just testing the sharpness of my graver on the back of my nail. And if it grips on there, it means it's nice and sharp. If it slips, it's not sharp and I've got to go put an edge on it again. All righty, so let's come in. I'm coming from quite far away because these grains are massive and I've got to emulate quite a massive grain. So I'm coming from pretty far away and I'm trying to get really deep because I want a huge grain. All right, let's push it up. All right, let's see if that's enough. So I've got my big 22 beader here. I'm going to try and bead that grain. Oh, you know what? It still looks so small compared to the others because they're just so big. The sandcast grains are massive. All right, let's see. Can I do it? I mean, look, it would do the trick. It's going to hold the stone in place, but it doesn't emulate the existing grain. So let me come in with my little lens again. See that bead that I in between those two stones there, the green one and the dark one next to it? That's my grain that I raised up, but it looks pretty damn small next to the rest of the grains, doesn't it? So I'll just turn it so I can show you where I drew the metal from. See that big cut?
Yeah.
So that's where I drew the metal from to try and get as big of a grain as I can, but it is still not big enough. Okay, so I will have to come in with some metal and some solder. So unfortunately, poor little grain that I just worked so hard on is gonna, I'm just gonna have to ball burr that because I need to put a new grain on there, which is going to be a balled up piece of silver that has some solder on it. And I can't put a balled up piece of solder on top of a round thing, you know, like I have to create a countersink. Has to be like a nice little concave section for that new grain to solder into. So sorry, my awesome little grain, you just didn't make the cut. So I'm just going to, there you go, create a little ball burr dint in it. And I'm going to do some soldering. Let's see if I can just do soldering right here in front of you guys. Should be fine. Should be fine. All right. Let's cut off a little bit of easy solder. You could use you know, you could use hard solder if you want, but I know I'm not doing any other soldering work to this piece. It's got jump rings attached to it already. I don't need to use hard. If I use hard, there is a higher risk that those stones are gonna get fried or fracture from the heat. Woohoo! New tenacity. Bought this the other day. Absolutely brand new. Love it. Because I don't know what if you guys see what my old one looked like.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
It doesn't look so
Bit of a
good. Yeah. So they all start out beautiful like this, and then they end like this. All right. And let's grab a little bit of metal that we're going to melt down. So I am going to melt the metal down and put some solder on it on my little soldering bench next to me. But I will, you know what? If I turn that light off, maybe that'll be better. Maybe you guys will be able to see more. Can you see more? Not really, hey?
It's probably better with it on. Yeah.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, sorry, guys. You know, we do the best we can. Technology's not quite there yet, is it? You know what I just realized? I'm not putting flux on this. I got the flux out, I got it ready, but I'm not putting flux on it. I'm going to put a little bit of flux maybe on this little grain I've just balled up, and I've just let some solder, the easy solder, run over the grain. I'll put a bit of flux on the grain itself, but not heaps. I'm not putting flux on my actual piece with my stones because the flux will acid those sapphires, and then they'll just like look like crap. So we don't want to do that. All right, so let's heat up that piece. Heat it up, beat it up, beat it up. All right. So I'm soldering a little thing onto a big thing. Big thing takes a lot of heat. So I've got to focus most of my heat on the big thing, bring it up to temperature so that it is the same temperature as the little thing. All right, now the solder should want to flow between them. Done. Cool. So that'll be a little bit hot. Don't touch it. So I'm just going to put it on my little steel block there, and that should draw the heat out of it fairly quickly. You don't want to quench this. The stones will not appreciate going from very hot to very cold. They will go into thermal shock. But what I can do is, instead of us sitting here watching it cool down, is I can just pick it up with my tweezers and show you what I did. New grain on the left-hand side there. So it's not quite in the correct position yet, but I'm going to give it a little push with the pliers up over those stones a bit more. And I am going to go over it with my beater, and that should make it a little bit more compressed and make it look similar to the rest of those grains. Oh. Cool, cool, cool. So I'll do that pretty much right now. Let's just pop it in, because let's end on a win, hey?
Indeed.
Let's end on me actually finishing this. Alrighty, so with some pliers, I'm just going to come in and push that grain a little bit closer. You know what? I'm going to come in with a cup burr, and then I'm going to go over it with the go over it with the beater. So cup burr is just going to remove a little bit of extra material. So I'm just going to remove it from that outer side. Cup burr is a convex little cup that has teeth on the inside of it, so it cuts away in like a nice, beautiful little ball motion. Cool. So I'm just removing some of that extra material from the, you know, this inner crescent moon section, because I did pick a little bit of metal that was a bit bigger than I actually needed, but it meant it gives me room to work with it. If it was too small, I'd have to really try and make it work. This way, I have options. If I have it a little bit bigger, I can sculpt it, I can move it. All right, and let's bead that up. What I'm doing is I'm just trying to press it down over the stone a bit more Sorry, guys. Cool. Whoop, wrong one. Need bigger beaters. This one's not quite big enough. But let's just work with what we've got. And I'm just compressing that grain down over the stones so it's functioning as the way it should be, which is holding those stones securely and tightly in position. And it's still sticking out so much. Getting a bit fussy now, aren't I?
Well, it does show the amount of time and effort that goes into sorting these little issues out along the way, hey, Kirra-lea?
It can, yeah, that's right. All right, that's looking okay. I might Hart Bur that one more time because it's, like I said, it is still a bit bigger than its little buddy, which is the opposite problem what we had before, right? But like I said, I intentionally made it a little bit bigger because bigger gives you options. It's so much easier to remove material than it is to add material, just as we saw. Cool. All right, so let me bring this up for you to see. I'm quite happy with that. There we go.
Well done, just like a new one.
Just like a new one. So it's still sticking out a little bit. I might do a bit more fussing to bring it closer in with the rest of the in line with the rest of them, but I'm quite happy with that. Cool. There you go. There's some troubleshooting for you.
Indeed, yeah. I've got you back on the air now. Yeah.
Oh, I wasn't on air.
No, your face wasn't on air.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was like, for how long? I told them so many secrets.
Yep, no, everyone was right in there on the action. So thank you very much for sharing all that with us, Kirra-lea.
That's okay.
And it was enhanced by having that loop there to help out with
Oh,
getting
good.
close up. So
I know, because we're working with such teeny tiny things. I will just reiterate again that if you are doing soldering work around stones, don't put tenacity flux on it. It will acid etch your stones and they will go frosty, or they will have literally like etched sections, like the surface of the stone will have concave sections in it. So try not to use flux when you can, the tenacity flux anyway. I think you can use other things like the boracic acid with metho is quite safe for the stones. But just the tenacity, it will, yeah, wreck your stone.
and no one wants that. Yeah.
No. I mean, if you're spending all this effort to try and make something work, then you're really invested in that piece. So don't bugger it up by putting flux on it.
To use a technical term.
Yeah, you know.
Excellent. Well, Kirra-lea, we'll call it quits there. So thank you so much for sharing with us today. And thank you to all those who are on board with us, including Tigger, Lynn, Ruth and Robert. And we'll see you and them, hopefully, very soon.
Thank you very much, everyone.